What is up everybody, it's Animac here for Anime Uproar, and in this video I'm going to be talking about the best thing about Fooly Cooly, also known as Fooly Cooly or just FLCL in my opinion. Fooly Cooly first aired way back in the year 2000 and it only had 6 episodes, but the badass music, the unique art style, and the wonderfully insane storyline turned Fooly Cooly into a real cult classic among anime fans. And just last year we learned that Toonami is going to be co-producing, along with production IG, 12 new episodes of Fooly Cooly, a sequel to Fooly Cooly. This sequel is going to be broken up into 2 seasons, Season 2 and Season 3, and each season will have 6 episodes just like the original anime. The sequel is slated to air from late 2017 to early 2018. Fooly Cooly creator Kazuya Tsurumaki will be back working on the project, and we know that at least some of the original voice actors will be back as well, including Haruko's voice actress Mayumi Shintani. The rock band The Pillows, which made the original OST, is expected to return as well. Right here at Anime Uproar, we're going to keep you posted on all the latest news and updates about the Fooly Cooly sequel. So if you're new to the channel, be sure to subscribe and hit that notification bell so you can be the first to know. Now, when I first watched this anime quite a few years ago, I have to admit that I did not understand it all at first glance. But after re-watching it recently, it really spoke to me. I rediscovered the greatness of this anime, and I was inspired to make this video about the best thing about Fooly Cooly in my opinion. Why this anime is still such a cult classic 17 years after it first aired. Other than hilarious scenes like this one, in which if you slow it down, you can clearly see our main character Naota randomly pulling off Mamimi's panties as she's getting up and no one even acknowledges it in the anime, what makes Fooly Cooly so amazing is the social commentary that it has about the adult world. The brilliance of Fooly Cooly is that it demonstrates that the so-called adult world makes no sense. It is crazy and all over the place, and it is full of nonsensical cultural and social norms and expectations. The show follows teens, and primarily our protagonist Naota, as he tries to understand and come to terms with the nonsensical nature of the adult world and its pressures and expectations. I'm sure that at some point all of us have been told to grow up and to act mature, and children are all expected to eventually come to meet our definition of what an adult is. If someone does not meet society's definition of an adult, they're considered crazy. They are an outcast. However, Fooly Cooly asks an important question. Who is the truly crazy one? Is it really children who still have an open mind, who still know how to be creative and think outside the box, who are not backed into a corner by society's social pressures? Or is it adults who often lead completely meaningless lives just because they believe that that is what others expect of them, that is what society expects them to do? I want to start off by talking about the Mechanica factory, which is a giant factory shaped like an iron for ironing clothes, and which is introduced right at the beginning of the first episode. We are told that all the adults were happy when the factory came to town, but our protagonist, Naota, who is a 6th grader, sees the factory as a bad omen and he doesn't understand it. We are also introduced to Haruko Haruhara, who is an alien investigator working for the Galactic Space Police Brotherhood, and she becomes a housekeeper of sorts in Naota's household while she's investigating Medical Mechanica on Earth. In episode 2, Haruko actually crashes her Vespa into the Medical Mechanica building, pretending that it was an accident, and she notes that there are no entrances or exits on this factory. And this is an important fact that I'm going to come back to later. As it turns out, our protagonist Naota actually has a portal in his head that allows objects and even creatures from other parts of the universe to teleport to Earth. Something from Medical Mechanica seems to trigger the portal in Naota's head to open, and this brings forth creatures and objects, including the robot Kanti, to Earth. I will return to talking about the portal inside Naota's head in a little bit, but for now it is important to note that the activities of this portal are clearly affected by activities from Medical Mechanica along with Haruko's interference into Naota's life. In episode 6, Medical Mechanica releases smoke that surrounds the entire city. And to this, Naota says, when you're in a town covered with smoke, you forget that there's a world outside. Nothing happens here. We get used to a world where everything is ordinary. Eventually we learn that Medical Mechanica has actually been flattening planets throughout the galaxy, flattening them with their iron-shaped factories. And of course, to flatten means to make boring, to make everything the same, to conform. Medical Mechanica is the symbol of the conformism of the adult world. It flattens everything and makes it the same. It covers everything in the smoke of everyday life and keeps us from seeing the extraordinary things in life. And there are no entrances or exits because the adult world, with its rules and social pressures and expectations, is so immersive that we forget that there is an outside world at all. The iron is an apt symbol for the adult world, for the need to conform and never have a wrinkle out of place. We cannot leave the factory, the machine, because we forget that we entered it in the first place. We forgot that there was ever an alternative to this adult world. It is important to know that throughout the anime, Haruko is looking for Atomsk, the most powerful space pirate who has been imprisoned by Medical Mechanica. And the interesting part is that both Haruko and Atomsk use guitars to fight against Medical Mechanica. Now personally, I think that these guitars are a reference to punk music and punk subculture. And the punk subculture is all about being anti-establishment and being anti-conformist. At one point, Haruko famously states that eating bad ramen can be fun too. And I think that this quote really speaks to the anti-establishment and anti-conformist attitude of the anime. Breaking adult rules, breaking the rules of the adult world can be fun too. And now back to the portals in Naota's head. This power is known as NO, and it is the ability to summon objects through light years of space to instantly teleport to Earth. And so, throughout the anime, we see objects and creatures literally growing out of Naota's head and appearing on Earth, which seems bizarre and strange when you're watching it for the first time. But I think that in Fooly Cooly, this bizarre occurrence symbolizes how the creative and new ideas of the youth are seen as strange and bizarre by the adult world. The name itself, NO, could be saying that the only way to escape the conformity of the adult world is to say no to all of its rules and restrictions. So in Fooly Cooly, the key to escaping the insanity of the adult world comes quite literally out of the minds of the youth. Along with social norms, Fooly Cooly also makes references to cultural norms. And in episode 1, we learned that Naota has a brother named Takun who actually left Japan to play baseball in America. In doing so, he abandons his family and Mamimi, a girl who loves him, in Japan. It is implied that the brother does not stay in touch with the family very often. But in the very first episode, we get a glimpse of a letter that he sends back home to Japan. The letter contains a picture of Naota's brother and his girlfriend, and a note written by the brother says, "I got me a blonde gal." Now we know logically that a person's hair color should make no difference, but because blonde girls are so rare in Japan, Naota's brother feels like bragging. He feels special about the fact that he found a blonde girlfriend in America. In many ways, this scene symbolizes the fact that in Japan and many other non-Western countries, there are a lot of people who strive to be more Western. Not because it makes any logical sense necessarily, but just because it is considered cool to be Western. As someone from Eastern Europe and specifically Serbia, I can speak to this on a personal level. Whenever I go to visit my family back in Serbia, I notice that a lot of people there have a completely unrealistic and idealized view of what the West is really like. And they strive to be more Western and copy the cultural and social norms of the West that they see on TV, in the media, and so on. And speaking of Mamimi, She is a girl who is in love with Naota's brother, but was abandoned by him when he moved to America, so she spends her time hanging out with Naota and flirting with him, and also calling him by his brother's name, Takun. Now, Mamimi is a really interesting character in my opinion, because she is portrayed as an outcast throughout the anime because she doesn't fit society's expectations. Mamimi is bullied, rejected by Naota's family for being a bad influence, and also mocked by Naota's friends. It is hinted that several years earlier, she was bullied so badly at school that she actually burned down the school as a way of acting out. The words "never knows best" are shown to be written on Mamimi's cigarette, and this is another statement about the adult world and adult expectations. Nothing Mamimi does will ever be good enough until she meets the standards that society has for being normal. In episode 3, we see cat ears growing out of Naota's head. And near the end of this episode, after a sharp sound from the medical Mechanica factory, his ears disappear, but spikes grow out of the head of Eri, who is his classmate and the daughter of the mayor of their town. This happens as they are arguing about the school play, which makes for an interesting juxtaposition of school life and the adult world, childhood and adulthood. The spikes on Eri's head then turn into some sort of steampunk spider that attacks Kanti the robot and chases after him and Haruko. As this is happening, the teacher screams after them not to run in the hallway, which again speaks to the absurdity of the rules of the adult world. Sometimes adults are so blinded by their rules and norms that they can't see what's really important in life. In that same episode, we see everyone at Naota's house eating Manhattan-style curry that Haruko had made. Even though the father and grandfather are visibly uncomfortable eating it because it is too spicy, they do not complain and they even praise the food. Naota is the only one to complain that it is too spicy, to which Eri replies that he is a child and that the curry is an adult taste. This again shows that the rules of the adult world are absurd. They eat something that they are clearly uncomfortable eating just because it is expected of them. As adults, they are expected to appreciate this type of taste. Even Kanti the robot is shown eating curry in this scene. And since we know that robots don't need to eat human food, this speaks to the pervasiveness of the rules and norms of the adult world. They are everywhere, they are inescapable, and they rub off on everyone. There is also a reference to the Little Prince at the end of this scene. The Little Prince curry is the name of the brand of curry that Eri eats, which is actually mild and not spicy because it is for kids and not adults. The reference here to the Little Prince is no coincidence. Le Petit Prince is a famous children's book by French author Antoine de Saint-Exupéry. This book is all about the beauty of childhood and the strangeness of the adult world. A part of the book features a child, known as the Little Prince, traveling through space and visiting various asteroids. Each of the asteroids has one irrational and narrow-minded adult living there, and every one of them represents some sort of nonsensical element of the adult world. We meet a man who calls himself a king but has no subjects, a man who drinks to forget the shame of being a drunk, and a man who doesn't appreciate the beauty of the stars because he is too busy counting them, and he thinks that if he counts the stars and documents them, he will own them and become rich. The ultimate message of The Little Prince is very similar to the message of Fooly Cooly. Many aspects of the adult world make no sense. Adults are often too narrow-minded to appreciate the most beautiful and the simplest things in the world. And it is often children who are the most innocent and not yet corrupted by the adult world who can see the truth about life and the true meaning of life much easier than adults can. I really love this exchange in episode 4 between Naota and Haruko. Naota asks Haruko, "Who are you really?" And Haruko replies, "I'm an illusion of Takun's youth, the memories of an adolescent heart." Here Haruko is calling Naota Takun by his brother's name, just like Mamimi does. Naota then replies, What's that from? Some anime? I really love this exchange because it implies that Haruko is the embodiment of Naota's youthful rebellion against the adult world. Haruko doesn't care about the rules. Haruko doesn't conform, and she can see the adult world and medical Mechanica for what it really is. She can see outside the box. In episode 5, Naota breaks the fourth wall to ask, "Do you guys find this hard to understand?" To which Haruko replies that playing the guitar will make him look mature and will make him popular with the ladies. Again, the point here is that the rules of the adult world are nonsensical. They are difficult to understand, but everyone still adopts them because they believe that they have no other choice. They believe that it's the only way that they will impress others and be popular with the ladies. In this episode, we also see Mamimi say to Naota, "You do Fooly Cooly and Pulpi Pulpi and Gurgly Gurgly. When did you become all grown up like this?" But what are these words? What do they mean? And why does Mamimi use them at this point to describe Naota acting like a grown-up? Well, these words mean nothing, of course. They make no sense, and that is exactly the point. The adult world makes no sense, and Naota, by acting like an adult, is acting in a nonsensical way. In episode 6, the final episode, we see a lot of breaking of the fourth wall, including the question, what does Fooly Cooly even mean? And Naota is being asked what it means because he, as the main character, should know. Naota finally answers that it doesn't matter what Fooly Cooly means. And that is exactly it. It isn't supposed to mean anything. It isn't supposed to make sense because it symbolizes the often nonsensical nature of the adult world. So many things in this anime are hectic, they're all over the place, and they don't make sense because this anime is a representation of the adult world with all of its craziness and contradictions. In the end, despite Naota trying to act like an adult at certain points in the anime, both Haruko and Eri tell him that he is, after all, still a child. And it is a good thing that he is. I actually didn't know about this little hidden Easter egg in the show until I was finishing the research for this video and I saw an older video by Aki Dearest on Fooly Cooly. Check this out.
Number 9. Kanji's logo that flashes in episode 1 was actually a combination of two kanji symbols. The symbols placed side by side actually translate to adult. This symbol then appears again in episode 4 before Naota swings the bat. However, by the end of the anime, the symbol that pops up isn't adult, but rather two kanji symbols that spell child.
So we can take this to mean that Naota goes from trying to act like an adult to realizing in the end that being a child is better, that the adult world makes no sense, and that he shouldn't try to become one of them, that he shouldn't try to be trapped in the box of the adult world. Shout out to Aki Dearest for making her video on Easter eggs in Fooly Cooly, and I will leave the link to that video in the description. So why does all of this matter? Why is Fooly Cooly such an important anime? It's because we right now are living in this adult world. We live in a world where things like money is all that matters, where the truth can be bought with that same money through media propaganda, and where those who are already powerful get to decide what the rest of us should and should not do. As anime fans, how many times have we been told to grow up, to act our age, to do what everyone else wants us to do instead of doing what makes us happy? When you are told to act your age, what you are really being told is to conform to the rules and expectations of society. You are being told to stop being creative and stop thinking outside the box. I recently saw a handout that is being given to future high school teachers by their university professors. And this handout featured an image that warned students that they could lose a potential job opportunity if they write something inappropriate on social media, or if they make an embarrassing YouTube video. Now, of course, we know that sometimes people post ridiculous things on social media, and everyone should know that when you post something publicly, it's going to stay public. However, what this handout, what this image is really telling us is to conform to the rules and expectations of society, to conform to the rules and expectations of some employer before we even get the job. It's telling us to censor ourselves, to stop being creative, because we might lose a potential job somewhere in the future. I spent many years of my life in academia, getting my PhD in an atmosphere where creativity was discouraged. We had to censor ourselves and everything had to be politically correct. And it is this same institution, the university, the high school, and so on, that is raising future generations of children and teaching them to conform, to do only what others want them to do. But I'm here to tell you, don't listen to these people. Don't be a robot, don't be a zombie. Be yourself, be creative, and think outside the box. I'm a grown man with a PhD making videos about Japanese cartoons, and I love it. Is that embarrassing? Does it mean that one day someone won't give me a job because of this embarrassing YouTube video? Guess what? I don't care. I don't need your job. I only get one life and I want to do what makes me happy. I want to think outside the box. I don't want to grow up in the way that you imagine growing up should be. I want to be me. I don't want to work at Medical Mechanica where there are no entrances and no exits. I want to be myself. I want to have fun, and eating bad ramen can be fun too. And what did you guys think? Did you enjoy this show? Do you agree with the points that I made here? And are you looking forward to the sequel? Let me know down in the comments. I'd love to hear from you. And that is it for this video. As always, thank you so much for watching. And if you're new to the channel, be sure to subscribe and hit that notification bell. And until next time, see ya! Space Cowboys.